get over this athleticism displayed by Peyton Seaman.
Wow! He'll own this city before he's finished. Look at that. Beautiful technique by Rogers.
That third trip down the court. Magic.
This is scary.
She is lifted. Terry is hurt.
Chris seized on a plan to honor his grandfather in his next game by scoring 1 point for every year of his grandfather's life.
I just thank everyone, on behalf of my family, man. I was telling my teammates a minute ago, it's just new territory for me personally. I never really had to deal with, death in the family, let alone, my brother.
Yeah, Peyton Seaman trying to put his team on his back.
Young man from Seattle can soar.
If they do anything in the NCAA, it'll be on his shoulders. I just can't get over this athleticism displayed by Peyton Seaman.
Wow! He'll own this city before he's finished.
How can this all be real? I'm giving it all I have to give. Something tells me feel for you.
My dad was in and out of jail and in and out of the streets. He had a real tough time just with everything.
Drugs, alcohol, anything that could numb me up was my escape.
You would see other dads helping their sons out at the basketball gym all the time with them, pushing them. It wasn't like that for me.
I was more like selfish, self-centered, just on me, not worried about what responsibility is.
I didn't want my children to grow up being on welfare, so I was married and I had to make a choice. Either I stay with this man who's stealing everything out of my house, or I take care of these 3 babies who need me. And so I divorced his dad and I took care of my 3 children the best way I could.
I knew my mom always loved me, and I knew she was doing whatever she could to support us. I never take her for granted for anything, and I love her with all my heart.
Peyton Sr. hit rock bottom a lot of times. It always bothered me, and I know that my son has always been there, has pulled his dad out of dark places more times than one.
There was an instance when I was younger. he had took my brother's car and he was missing for a couple of days, and nobody really knew who he was.
There'd be times where I tell Pepe, I'd be like, go get him, you know. That's the only way, you know. You can get to him.
You know, I didn't want to go find him, and you know, he was already in a dark place.
I was at the point where I didn't want to live anymore. I was at the point where I felt like I was a failure.
You know, I told him I was stupid of him. I mean, you know, you already haven't really been in my life right now. Why would you even think about taking your own life? And, you know, it's really selfish. You're not really thinking about anybody else, and you only think about yourself. You know, I told him he really has to step up. You used to have time to change your life around.
When other people gave up and saw the bad in people, Pepe saw the good.
I've been shot, stabbed. I've been through the hardship. I knew I had to turn around somewhere. Here's a kid that telling his father what he want out of life. And here I am, hindering his life.
And he's been a major support. And he's been trying to go to all my games, every event that I had. And, you know, he's been doing a great job at it.
It's a lot of joy. It's overwhelming. I can tell you, well, I'd be so ecstatic out there. Oh, it's unreal. It's unreal.
You know, he always says that, you know, it wasn't for me. He don't know if he'll be here. You know, it's just great to hear. It's great to know that he's still going and moving forward with his life, and that me using basketball and me being his son is helping him out.
I remember the first time I saw Anthony wrestle. I went in the stands and my son threw down his crutches and he hopped to the middle of the mat. And there's this scrawny little kid, you know, and that's my son, and I was so proud of him, but this woman was laughing, and it broke my heart. I never wanted him to look at himself and say, hey, something's wrong with me, because these people keep looking at me and pointing. But if anybody's known Anthony throughout his whole life, it's that big smile, that great personality, you know, and never letting anything get him down. Even when they'd ask him, you know, what happened to your leg? He's like, I was born that way. Just with confidence, he just says it. I know Anthony made it a point that he wanted to go to a Division I school. He had worked really hard with 2 undefeated seasons, 2 state titles. But he wasn't heavily recruited. He knew he had something to prove once again. When he first started, it was like, oh, poor thing, you know, good for him, he's trying, he's got one leg, he's at a disadvantage. And then as he started winning, it was, well, he's got an advantage because he's got all that upper body strength and, you know, people can't get low enough. And I'm like, no, the kid just figured out how to beat you guys.
And it will be a tall task for Anthony Robles, the senior from Mesa, Arizona, 7 minutes away from a national title.
I was scared for him, knowing that it had to be Iowa, knowing that it had to be the former champion.
Look at that. Beautiful technique by Robles.
For anybody to give Anthony any credit, it had to be the best of the best. Anthony had worked really hard, and he'd overcome a lot of stuff. A lot of people not expecting him to do it, people not expecting him to do anything. And for him to take control of that match, that was his defining moment. The pride I feel for him is indescribable. It's an honor to be Anthony's mom.
Diagnosed with autism at 2 years old, now identified as highly functioning, he's never considered himself different or separate, especially when it comes to sports.
Sports has always been, how could I say, his equalizer. He's just like any of the other kids out there.
It's not really a big deal at all. I'm just normal like other people. That's the way I am.
At 5'6", J-Mac didn't make the junior varsity basketball team at his high school, Greece Athena, near Rochester, New York. Instead, he became team manager, a role he now has for the varsity as a senior. In the last 3 years, in his white shirt and black tie, he's missed only one game.
Go on practice, I set up the clock and get the water in games and be enthusiastic.
As this season was wrapping up, Coach Johnson approached Jason with an idea about the Trojans' final home game of the season.
I said, I'm really going to look to try to get you in the game, but remember, I can't promise you that. And he goes, okay, Coach.
February 15th, Greece Athena against Spencerport, senior night. With word out that Jason might play, the student section printed signs of J-Mac's face, just in case. And with 4:19 left in the game, with the Trojans up by 20, Coach called down to the end of the bench for number 52.
I just kind of turned and pointed at him, and he almost ran right on the court. He was so excited.
Hey, Jay, you got to check in. So he hits the buzzer, and he doesn't go anywhere. It's like, now you go on the court. He was so caught up in the moment.
He came into the game, they all stood up and they put the signs, the pictures of him up, and I got really emotional. And I sat down and started to cry.
With 3:46 left, Jason got the ball.
When he missed that first three, I was like, oh, and then it airball, and I was like, man, I really just want to see him score one time.
I put my head in my hands like, dear God, please, just get him a basket.
Then, with 3:12 left, another chance.
That third trip down the court, magic.
As soon as I started hitting my first shot, I just kept shooting, and I was just hot as a pistol.
Shot after shot after shot kept going in.
The basket was like this big, huge bucket, and I was shooting them like they were free throws. It was just a big, huge bucket that's like huge.
And I was like, oh my God, is this really happening? He has more points than me, so he's got bragging rights over me.
He was unstoppable for that moment in time. He was unstoppable.
He comes down the court right at the end with like 3 seconds left, and he hits this one that's, probably like an NBA three. As soon as the gun ended, they stormed the court, I couldn't, I just couldn't dream anything like that.
It felt like we won a championship. Everyone was just so happy for me.
In that 4 minutes, 19 seconds, Jason was 7 for 13, 6 of 10 from three-point range, 20 points in all. In the end, Jason McElwain was the game's high scorer.
Truly the most incredible moment I've ever had in coaching. I was so touched, and it was just so special to me that a young man, his dream came true, and that I could help that. It was awesome.
Going into Atlanta, we knew that we had a strong chance of winning gold.
And we went strongly with event after event, performing well.
She usually sticks it.
And I had a great feel that we're gonna really anchor the gold at this time, for the first time in the history of American gymnastics.
I just heard this by the crowd and looked up and saw on the huge screen that Dominique had fallen on her first vault. It was kind of taken aback because Bella's girls, maybe you'll have a little wobble or a hop or a step, but they usually don't fall.
Not end of the world. We still have the second wall.
I just was flabbergasted when she fell yet again.
That one, we really went into the stage of not knowing at all where we at that time. So, but we still had the best vaulter of the team, Carrie Strug, coming up.
So Carrie Strug, it is up to her.
My other teammates had done their job, and I knew I had 2 chances. I just needed to make 1 vault.
That was devastating.
And when I got up, my left ankle felt a little strange.
This is scary. She is limping. Carrie is hurt.
Because in workouts, Bella's always like, it can be faster, it can be higher, stronger. That's no good. What are you thinking? And so in a competition, when he's really excited and being positive and he's motivating you and telling you how great you are, you're like, yeah, you're right. I can do this and I will do this.
Yeah, you can do it. Don't worry about it.
Really was just focused on the technique of the vault, the twisting to be tight. When I landed, the rest of that's a blur.
Carrie Strug is hurt. She is hurt badly.
The crowd exploded, of course, in an unbelievable recognition of joy and excitement and appreciation of the performance.
A 9-7-1-2, she has done it. Carrie Strug has won the gold medal for the United States team.
To this day, remember the national anthem playing and being up there with my teammates and thinking to myself, this is what you've always wanted.
As the star point guard and senior class president at West Forsyth High School, Chris Paul had plenty of people in his corner. But no one meant more to him than his grandfather, 61-year-old service station owner Nathaniel Jones.
He's been running the service station for years, and he would let his customers know if I had a game, I'm closing up early to go see my grandson play.
For Chris and his family, November 14th was one of the happiest days of their lives. The day Chris accepted a full basketball scholarship to nearby Wake Forest.
I had my friends from school, some of my teachers, my coach, my teammates. My brother came home for the signing, my mom and dad, and my granddad was here to see me sign.
The very next day, November 15th, Chris was at a high school football game when a cousin told him shocking news. His grandfather had been found murdered.
We went to my granddad's house, and I didn't want to believe it. And all I wanted to do when I get out the car was see my granddad, and they wouldn't let me. I just, you know, everybody has to die, but I just thought that my granddad was one of those people who never would. Never would.
Still grieving days later, Chris seized on a plan to honor his grandfather in his next game by scoring 1 point for every year of his grandfather's life, all 61 of them.
The first thought was, how can I go out there on that court knowing my granddad's not there? But this is one of the times that I just felt there's no way that, I don't care what kind of defense you play, who you put in front of me, there's no way you're going to stop me from getting to that goal. The whole game I was just thinking about my granddad, just thinking, you know, he's in heaven, he's watching this game. He's watching this game. Every time somebody hits me to the floor, he's up there jumping out of his seat, getting angry. And then as the course of the game went on, I said, I can do this.
By the end of the third quarter, West Forsyth had the game wrapped up. Word began to spread through the crowd about Chris's remarkable tribute.
I think I heard some of the children talking about it, but I didn't believe it. I mean, 61 points, come on. That's just almost unreal. So I didn't believe it.
Coach asked me how many did he need. I'm like, what? And he looked at me like, don't you know? And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, nothing.
There towards the end, when we got to 56, they turned around, one of the kids turned around and said, Miss Polly only needs 5, and that's when I started getting nervous, because I really wanted him to achieve it at that point.
With less than 2 minutes to go in the game, Chris had scored 59 points. Then he drove to the hoop, took a hard foul, and the shot dropped. He had his 61.
And I laid it up, and I got fouled, and it went in. And I laid there for a second and was just overwhelmed because I knew that at this moment in time, this is something I'll never forget. It felt like I could have just died and went to heaven right there. It felt like my purpose for being here was almost over.
His total left him just 6 points away from the state record for most points in a game. But as he walked to the foul line, that didn't matter. 61 did.
I walked to the free throw line, the referee gave me the ball and shot an air ball right out of bounds. And my coach took me out. I just looked at my dad and started crying.
It's like everything came out of him. He just walked over to me and gave me a hug, and he just fell in my arms. And that's when it just tore me up, because of what he had just done.
I've never had experience that, I understand it happens, it's life. We're all gonna pass someday, but there's some things you just don't expect. And some things you don't expect certain ways.
Ravens receiver Torrey Smith grew up in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The oldest of 7, 4 brothers, 2 sisters, Smith took care of his siblings while his mother worked multiple jobs and struggled through an abusive relationship.
I was kind of like the father figure, just to be my mother's backbone.
We used to call him the microwave king because he would cook eggs in the microwave. Anything in the refrigerator would go in that microwave.
When Smith left home to play football at the University of Maryland, his younger brother Tevin, called Little Chris by his family, took over as caretaker.
Tevin, he took over. He was me for my mother.
Little Chris would pick the kids up from school, and he would be the one that was cooking. He would be the one that was cleaning.
Smith, shown here with Tevin, shined in his rookie season with the Ravens, totaling 50 catches and 7 touchdowns. 3 weeks into the 2012 season, it was early morning, Sunday, September 23rd, just hours before the Ravens were to host the Patriots. Smith's phone rang.
I'm in the hotel, I'm going to sleep, and my brother Troy calls me. It's like 1 in the morning, like, hey, Tevin was in an accident. I was like, what? He's crying. He's like, man, he's gone. He's dead. And I lost it.
Tevin was riding his motorcycle close to his grandmother's house in Montrose, Virginia. He hit a utility pole and died at the scene. Tevin was 19 years old.
I pulled the sheet off of my son. And he was lifeless. That's something no one ever wants to experience.
We heard the news about Torrey Smith's brother. And the first thing I said is, no way he's playing in this game. There's no way.
The hardest part was, my decision was, I had 2 hours of sleep. So do I want to go out there and hurt my team by playing? Or am I going to sit here, my family's telling me, to go. All my brothers and sisters, we want you to play. We want you to play.
Smith went on to have one of the best games of his career.
It's new territory for me dealing with, a loss like this, man. And, if it wasn't for y'all, I don't think I would have even been here today. It's just tough, man. I appreciate all the support. Y'all really made me feel better, and, it's going to make this fight a whole lot easier, a lot easier to get over with, man. And I just appreciate y'all. Love all y'all, coaches, players, everyone, man, and just thank you.
Yes. Love you, man.
Let's go. Bring it in tight, baby. Bring it in tight.
Hey, Ravens on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Ravens!
so bittersweet.